All right, thank you so much for coming. My name is Angela Staunton, and I'm education faculty here at Triton. If you guys wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves and just tell me where you're from, which area?
Michelle Everett, I'm the retention specialist for health careers.
Okay.
Tori Malloy, I'm the nuclear medicine program coordinator, clinical director, clinical coordinator, faculty member.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
I'm Bitsy, and I'm the College of Business.
Hi, Gretchen Reyes, full-time faculty business.
All right, well, thank you for coming. As you can see, I'm still in teacher mode even when I'm presenting. I kind of just gave like an overview of what to expect today. Obviously, I think everybody grabbed maybe the two handouts that are back there. And before we answer those first two questions, I do want to just review kind of our learning targets for today's session. So the first one is that I can differentiate between a fixed and growth mindset. 2, I can describe the attributes of a growth mindset teacher. And 3, I can explain the yet or not yet principle. So if you take a look at the first handout that is titled My Beliefs About Intelligence, if you would just take a minute or two to answer these two questions. So this is kind of gauging your pre-workshop mindset. And the first question is, what were you taught about student intelligence, just in general, when you were becoming a teacher, going through your bachelor's program? And then 2, what do you believe about student intelligence based on your own observations? Hi. Yeah, you're good. Thanks, Selma, for coming.
No problem, but I was in the age building.
She's fine. All right, so if you would just wrap up writing. And if anyone would mind kind of sharing their first response, just in general, kind of what were you taught about just intelligence, or even just student intelligence, or even just what are your beliefs about intelligence in general?
High IQ.
Okay, so high IQ equals what?
Intelligence.
All right, or superior intelligence possibly.
That it's something that's fixed.
Exactly, that it's fixed or static and it can't be changed. You're born with this particular set of skills or intelligence or IQ, and that's what you were given, that's it, right? Anything else we could add? All right, number 2 then. What do you believe about student intelligence based on your own observations or experiences out in the field?
Student intelligence is based on motivation.
Okay, that possibly student intelligence is based on motivation.
Well, with Gardner, and he says there's multiple intelligences, so every individual is different and has their different strengths as it relates to intelligence.
Great. It's so funny preparing that. I didn't even make that crossover, but it's true. Howard Gardner does say that we do have multiple intelligences, and that if we should try and touch upon all those things like intrapersonal skills or mathematical reasoning, kinesthetic, body movement, things like that as well. Anyone else want to add to number 2? So I think sometimes we as educators, we see our students, and I tend to sometimes look at them in a negative way, right? Like, oh, she just can't get work done. She's unmotivated. She's never going to pass my class, you know? We tend to kind of have this negative mindset. And so the point and the purpose of today's lecture is all about what we call the growth mindset. And we know from research, according to Carol Dweck, we're going to see a short video clip on her, that students perform better in school when they and their teachers believe that intelligence is not fixed and that obviously it can be continuously developed. So basically, kind of to also put ourselves back into this, our own mindset, and kind of looking at where we lie. If you flip that page that I gave you, there's a quick assessment. So now we're going to examine kind of our own mindset. So think of yourself. And it says to put a check mark next to the statements that best describe your beliefs. So I think by examining our own mindset through this little checklist, we're better able to kind of help develop more of a growth mindset for our students. So if you looked at the bottom, it says if you, the odd numbered statements are common attributes of someone like thinking in a fixed mindset. And then the even numbered statements are common of a person operating in a growth mindset. So again, it says you will most likely have a mixture of both, but it's good to kind of see like where we are. I always, just as like a personal note, I always felt like I was so bad at math growing up. You know, I think a lot of us do. But I feel like if I would have had this more growth mindset from my teachers, from my parents, maybe that would have changed. So even now I'm like, okay, no, I'm going to stop with the negativity. And I'm going to continue to kind of have that growth mindset in terms of math. So
what's
it's
that
important.
growth mindset? How do you tell a student if they come with that mindset? Oh, I'm just not good at this. I'm not good at math.
Well, and that's what we're going to learn today. I'm going to teach you guys some phrases, like how to kind of change it from fixed to more of that growth mindset. So I'm going to give you some. For a couple slides, just do an overview of what this is about, and then there'll be a video that dives deeper in that. So Carol Dweck is a leading researcher in the field of motivation. She published a book in 2006 that was called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. And so she's done a bunch of research with children in schools. I'm sure I don't know everything. I'm not the guru on it, but I know enough to present today. So her thing and what she realized is that children or adults can have either this fixed mindset or growth mindset. So it's a couple things that we already talked about. When we're looking at a fixed, we think that intelligence is static or fixed at birth. When we look at growth, we know that intelligence and talent can go up or even down. And so she really focuses on what she calls the effort and instruction that both parents, teachers can kind of instill in their students or kids to kind of motivate the learner. So here are some common phrases of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. Challenges help me grow. I'm either good at it or I'm not. You know, those are kind of like the positive and negative of each, so I'm not going to read all those. So I'm going to show you a quick 30-minute video. We all know who Michael Jordan is.
30 minutes?
Or 30 seconds, sorry. Woo! I would never do that. 30 seconds. Commercial from, I think, the 90s. I actually didn't even see. But what I want you to pay attention to is the video clip an example of a fixed mindset, a growth mindset, or both, and why?
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
All right, so thinking of that question on the slide there, what was Michael Jordan saying? Was it fixed, growth, both? Growth? Okay. Why growth?
Is it trying to do the same thing over and over again to succeed?
Mm-hmm. And we almost could say it was a little bit of both, because in the beginning he was focusing on what he couldn't do, but he, in the end, said, no, I'm going to keep trying, and he was able to succeed. So even like showing a clip like this to our students could be motivating for them, just to kind of demonstrate like a real life athlete that has kind of overcome many obstacles, but in the end has succeeded. So the biggest thing I want you to know is that it says a growth mindset does not imply that everyone is the same or that everyone can be Einstein. We know that that's not possible, right? But it does imply that everybody can grow intellectually, right? And again, we're going to see Dweck's kind of philosophy that through praise and reward and effort, and then kind of focusing more on the not yet principle. So instead of saying that, oh, my students failed this test, well, no, they haven't reached this yet, not yet. They haven't mastered it yet. So we can kind of start to change our terminology in how we approach tasks with our students or even our own children. All right, so here's Carol Dweck. I'm going to show 5 minutes of this clip that again outlines kind of her 4 principles that I think are really important.
I had the same issue earlier today playing this TED Talk. Just give it a second.
Okay.
It's slow.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it came up. Hit the black part.
Here,
Yeah.
I could also go through you. Oh, there. Thank you for that tip.
Yeah.
The power of yet. I heard about a high school in Chicago where students had to pass a certain number of courses to graduate, and if they didn't pass a course, they got the grade not yet. And I thought that was fantastic, because if you get a failing grade, you think, I'm nothing, I'm nowhere. But if you get the grade not yet, you understand that you're on a learning curve. It gives you a path into the future. Not yet also gave me insight into a critical event early in my career, a real turning point. I wanted to see how children coped with challenge and difficulty. So I gave 10-year-olds problems that were slightly too hard for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, I love the challenge, or, you know, I was hoping this would be informative. They understood that their abilities could be developed. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other students felt it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed perspective, their intelligence had been up for judgment, and they failed. Instead of luxuriating in the power of yet, they were gripped in the tyranny of now. So what do they do next? I'll tell you what they do next. In one study, they told us they would probably cheat the next time instead of studying more if they failed a test. In another study, after a failure, they looked for someone who did worse than they did so they could feel really good about themselves. And in study after study, they have run from difficulty. Scientists measured the electrical activity from the brain as students confronted an error. On the left, you see the fixed mindset students. There's hardly any activity. They run from the error. They don't engage with it. But on the right, you have the students with the growth mindset, the idea that abilities can be developed. They engage deeply. Their brain is on fire with yet. They engage deeply. They process the error. They learn from it, and they correct it. How are we raising our children? Are we raising them for now instead of yet? Are we raising kids who are obsessed with getting A's? Are we raising kids who don't know how to dream big dreams? Their biggest goal is getting the next A or the next test score? And are they carrying this need for constant validation with them into their future lives? Maybe because employers are coming to me and saying, we have already raised a generation of young workers who can't get through the day without an award. So what can we do? How can we build that bridge to yet? Here are some things we can do. First of all, we can praise wisely, not praising intelligence or talent. That has failed. Don't do that anymore, but praising the process that kids engage in. Their effort, their strategies, their focus, their perseverance, their improvement. This process praise creates kids who are hardy and resilient. There are other ways to reward yet. We recently teamed up with game scientists from the University of Washington to create a new online math game that rewarded yet. In this game, students were rewarded for effort, strategy, and progress. The usual math game rewards you for getting answers right now. But this game rewarded process. And we got more effort, more strategies, more engagement over longer periods of time, and more perseverance when they hit really, really hard problems. Just the words yet or not yet, we're finding, give kids greater confidence, give them a path into the future that creates greater persistence. And we can actually change students' mindsets. In one study, we taught them that every time they push out of their comfort zone to learn something new and difficult, the neurons in their brain can form new, stronger connections, and over time, they can get smarter. Look what happened. In this study, students who were not taught this growth mindset continued to show declining grades over this difficult school transition. But those who were taught this lesson showed a sharp rebound in their grades. We have shown this now, this kind of improvement with thousands and thousands of kids, especially struggling students.
Okay. So I think that's a nice overview of all the research she did. And I kind of summed up on the next slide, basically those first 5 minutes of the video. So we want to praise not intelligence or talent, but the process, the effort, the strategies, how you're focusing, and the improvement. So it could be things like when you used this process over that process, you know, you did such a great job. So we're talking about, and then once, I wouldn't say we'll use that process, but when you use this strategy maybe, you know, so focus on that and not the grade. We have to kind of sometimes like not be grade obsessed, like she said. So I always like try, and I do a lot of formative assessments in my classes, entrance, exit slips, as you can see. And all of those are ungraded, and it's just part of my routine. And then sometimes there's some things that I just say, you're just going to get a completion grade for doing this. So I don't want them to always be so concerned about the grades that they're getting in class. So 2, reward the effort or the strategy. 3, instead of focusing on the failure, focus on the not yet, like I mentioned earlier. And then 4, we know that when they're challenged, that obviously those neurons are stronger and stronger. And again, that is circling back to intelligence is not fixed, and we can increase it or improve it. So this is just for your information, kind of some phrases that we are probably used to hearing in the classroom, whether from a teacher standpoint or a student standpoint. So sometimes we might hear our students say things like, when I have to ask for help or get called on in class, I get anxious and I feel like people will think I'm not smart, right? I even sometimes do that. You know, you don't want to ask a question. But if we kind of try and change that mindset, we can phrase it like this. Well, the question I have is likely the same question someone else in class may have. It's important for me to ask so I can better understand what I'm learning. So how do we, teach students this? We can just verbally show them, and I'm going to explain it in a couple of slides, like, you know what, I'm really sorry, class. My lesson was supposed to go like this, A, B, C, and D, but technology was a failure, and my notes were incorrect. I'm going to try better. I'm going to work on it tonight. Tomorrow, you'll get a completely different lesson, but I learned from my mistakes. You know, you just kind of have to verbalize these kinds of mindsets. Another one is, oh, my teacher gave me a low score in a presentation. But we've got to kind of change it to that growth mindset. My score wasn't as good as I had hoped. I'm going to revise my work and ask for help from my teacher. I just went to parent-teacher conferences for my daughter. She's a 7th grader. And she's doing fabulous. She's got all A's. And the teacher said that she got one question wrong on some test. So she got an A on this test, and she had told the rest of the class, or the entire class, you know, oh, you could redo anything and get additional points to boost up your grade, you know, go back and fix up your mistakes. And the teacher said, well, Maeve actually did that one and fixed it and turned it in. She's like, how did you teach this to her? Like, how did you have, you know, how is she so self-motivated? And I'm like, I actually don't even know what to be. I mean, I've kind of instilled it as the years have gone on, but like, sometimes it's a skill that has to be taught. And so we've got to show our students that love. So like, even in my syllabus, I have a policy that they are allowed for essays to rewrite and turn in an essay if they want to get additional points. I say that we have to meet in my office. We'll have a little conference beforehand, but I always believe that you should learn from mistakes. So sometimes we are in that fixed mindset as a teacher. This student will never learn how to do this. But if we try and change our mindset, we have to think, okay, how can I present this information so my students don't get bored or they can make growth towards their learning goal? The student hates school and there's nothing I can do to change that. How can I engage and connect with the student using his passions and interests? And then there's a couple other ones that I won't read. But I think you guys understand now kind of the differences. So when we praise, what did Carol Dweck say that we should do? Praise what?
The process.
Yes, the process, the effort. So we've got to make sure that when we're talking in our classes, we know that every word and every action sends a message, it says. So we want to have growth mindset messages that you are a developing person. I know that you can do better the next time. I'm interested in your development. And you put a lot of effort and it shows. On the other side is we don't want to focus on intelligence is permanent, which is kind of the overriding theme here, or that, oh, you're so smart. So I kind of mentioned this, that when we model the value of mistakes in our classrooms and process the praise, or process praise in responding to student mistakes, this is kind of what it looks like in our classes. I like how you showed your work using 2 different strategies. That's what I did with Gretchen. Or what parts of this seem challenging? Don't forget, we are learning new things, so mistakes will be made. This is part of helping our brains grow. I also mentioned this too, just kind of having that self-talk in the classroom is important for our students to hear. So what it sounds like is, today's lesson didn't go as well because of X, Y, and Z. And I already kind of reviewed that. All right, I think the last couple slides has to do with just in general the attributes of a growth mindset teacher. And I know everybody's doing this in their classes, and it's something that's been researched and is kind of best practices. So obviously you need to be flexible as a teacher. A lot of the times I have students that will email me and say, could I retake the test? I really bombed it. And not everybody has that philosophy, I get it, but sometimes you might want to be flexible in that area. Always set high expectations for everyone in the class. Make sure that you've developed a good relationship or rapport and that you're very communicative. So they understand the assignments, they feel comfortable asking questions, etc. Here are the big things that are, more focused on the growth mindset. We're process-oriented, so it's less about the outcome and more about the process. And then, again, we value mistakes. this is really good. We want to make sure that we understand the difference between equity and equality. So equity is making sure that everyone is successful in our classrooms. Equality is treating everyone the same. So when we provide learning opportunities, we want to make sure that we're distributing resources in that equitable manner. The last two also are really important, just being empathetic. And then developing that positive interdependence. And so obviously building communities within your classroom, making sure that everybody is working on the same goal or learning outcome. Okay, so I feel like I talked a lot. Do you guys have any questions before you do kind of like the post-workshop mindset?
It was really good.
Thanks. So yeah, now kind of just answer these last couple questions on the bottom. Kind of what you're thinking, what you're planning, and then how have your beliefs about student intelligence changed from when I first came to today's session? So does anyone want to share kind of how they can kind of use this in their future classroom, or how your beliefs maybe have changed since the beginning till now?
I guess I didn't realize that I had a growth mindset,
That's good.
so now I realize I have a growth mindset.
Uh-huh.
Still to that point, I do see, so in my program, in my very first semester, I have students who don't make it all the way through. I mean, either they don't make it and withdraw, or they make it to the end of the class and they don't make it to the next because their grade point isn't what we require.
Mm-hmm.
But this semester, as opposed to last year at this time, I have been interacting more with the students, and I changed my changed, not the curriculum, but just the way that it was taught, to try to promote more success.
Mhm.
And hopefully that's working.
Okay. What have you done that was different, and what's the specific strategy?
Well, I'm more experienced at it because last year was the first time.
Okay.
So I saw what needed to be enhanced or focused more on.
Okay.
And so when I was creating my lesson plans for this semester, I basically just last year there's a section that's all about math, and I didn't focus enough on it last year because for me it just made sense. I had a lot of students last year that they seemed to say that it made sense, but then the reality was it didn't make sense because their tests showed that it didn't make sense. So the mistakes that the students made last year, I made sure that everybody was aware without names or anything. But if you make this mistake, if you put this on the test, it'll result in a 0 grade. If you do this, it will result in a 0, and then be able to link the reason why.
Mhm.
So it's because it's in health careers, it's medically inclined. If you're doing a math problem, you're figuring out something, and you don't put a unit after it, it's really important because there's so many different units in the medical field. You could, if you're in nursing or whatever, if you give someone 1 gram of something as opposed to 1 kilogram of something, it significantly changes them.
Mhm.
Or, so for them to actually be able to link the reason why.
Okay. Almost like a self-assessment, maybe, kind of, or something.
No, it's I found that all of my students, the ones who recently graduated, and always that overwhelming answer. I had one student say, she's always going to ask you the reason why. She was talking to it. She's in my second years, and she was talking to someone in the first. You have to know the reason why. You have to know it.
Yeah.
You have to know the reason why. I'm just like, and every class and everything. I'm like, well, why would you do this? And so I've changed to get back on the topic, I've changed the way I address whatever topic it is so that I'm hoping that I will have more student success with that. Because this group of students, and my second years and my first years, but I almost handpicked them. They came to my information sessions. People emailed me, I'm interested, and I'm like, come talk to me in my office. You can't make the information. So I had 24 students before the start of the year, and almost all of them I knew before they came in.
Mhm.
So, but I handpicked them.
Was it this year?
Yeah. So I did have a couple drop out before August 1st date because of financial issues or life just intruding. So I did have 2 students withdraw in the middle of the program of the ones that I handpicked, but it was also life, basically. It wasn't the course. It was just the bad time in their life for the
Yeah.
course.
Oh, I get it.
So.
And in the first year you didn't pick up?
I did, but
How many dropped out?
4. I had 18 and I lost 4, but it was grades related. And they didn't. I had maybe I'm stressing things more about how important it is to. I had one student drop out because he didn't believe me that he could work from 11 to 7 and roll into my class and sleep through the class and score an A on Interesting, you know, believe me. And we came to the midterms, and then we came to like 12th week, and he was, you know, at 50%. And I'm like, I don't know what math you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can.
I just had that
I know.
conversation with a student at midterm. I'm like, I don't know which part of me saying to you, you're failing this class and you're not going to make it up, but you keep showing up and sleeping in the back. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, and my cutoff is 75%. It's
Mhm.
not a D, it's 75%.
Yeah.
So if you want to, and I have 2 classes in the first semester, so if you want to go to the second semester, you have to have 75% in both classes to continue.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, he just didn't get it.
Right.
And he's like, he came to me several times, kept telling me he was going to change, and he didn't.
Yeah.
And then it was a standout, but he is very intelligent, and he thought that, so in that case, he's a fixed mindset, because he thought that his intelligence was going to just carry him through. I mean, he already had, you know, basically said, you know, so I'm a nuclear medicine technologist, and I teach nuclear medicine. And he came and said that this was his profession. He was a nuclear medicine technologist. And I said, no, you're not. Because you haven't made it through my class, or the program, or sat for the board. And you won't if you continue to work from 7 to, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I'm more intelligent than the students. I said, but you've got 50% of the class. So I really don't care.
Yeah, the effort's not there.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
And it was a hard conversation, a long conversation, and then, I mean, he's one of the reasons I've changed. Because I want to make sure everybody's
And it's like, we can change the verbiage that we have, whether it's through an email or how we talk in class, but, you know, there's just, it's hard to, you know, reach
So, I mean,
all of them.
I have a growth mindset. I know in my life, I have done things later that I never would have thought to do when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was a straight A student. I was, you know, told that I was intelligent. I was intelligent. You know, I could do anything, that kind of thing. But I also was very uncomfortable in certain situations, like talking in front of people. I didn't give a speech outside of 9th grade speech class until I was 40 at a national convention. So,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah.
All right, so you defied the odds. Anyone else? Kind of where you would see this, how to like implement your class, or just how maybe your beliefs have changed since we started?
I came with mindset. But I think that using it in class, I think that that's maybe one of the things, I know I come from a growth mindset, but maybe it's one of those things I don't use in the class when actually communicating with students. Not that I'm saying you're smart or you did better than this or whatever the case is, but maybe when I see a student struggling, I'm not using the words that I should be saying, you know, you did phenomenal on this part of it, you know, so.
But you're not yet,
Right.
You haven't reached.
Yeah.
I do like the not yet.
Yeah,
I know,
do too.
you gotta do it. I should have copied this for you, but you can find it online, and it's not Carol Dweck's philosophy per se, but it's kind of the same concept, and it's called a choice map. And so the way that this person, Miralee Adams, she has broken it down into a learner mindset and a judger mindset. And so I almost feel like I could give this to all my classes. It might be like a nice little handout, because by following that learner mindset, when you come in contact with some kind of problem or issue, you think to yourself, okay, wait, what happened? What do I want for both myself and others? What can I learn, right? That's like the first step. But you go down and you react negatively, you could go into that mindset of, why am I such a failure? You know, why are they so stupid? Why bother? So you kind of want to just continuing to keep going on that learner mindset. So you could, this might be a nice little tool just to have a conversation with. I actually use this. I gave it to my girlfriend because her daughter's an 18-year-old in college, and she has this fixed gender mindset. Like, world is bad, and she's always like mad about something, and she was like, no, let's focus on the positive, and what can we do? How can we change the outcomes? Things like that. All right, any other questions or comments? I'll let you guys go. I don't want to keep you.
I was gonna say, I like the not yet as well.
Mhm.
I'm gonna start using that in my classroom.
Yeah.
When I write down the grades, A equals 90 plus, et cetera, I'm gonna say F is not yet, or
Mhm.
69 and below is not yet, and not an F.
Yep.
Yeah, I tend to like a lot of my classes, especially I teach math and it's hard. So I'm not that afraid it's something that I'm going to use.
I know, it's a nice thing to just kind of share. All right, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Too. Oh wait, I'll see you.